Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Stool podcast, a podcast for woodworkers and the maker community in general. This is episode number 23. My name is Robin Lewis from robinlewismakes.com. I'm joined by Joey Chalk from King Post Timberworks.
Hello.
And John Crawford from Periodic Furniture Studio.
Hello.
We live stream the recording on YouTube every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time or UTC plus 10. Or you can watch or listen to it later on YouTube, iTunes, or SoundCloud. I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. We'll get to your comments and questions towards the end of the show, but feel free to chat amongst yourselves. The idea being that this is also a place for people to meet. So before we get into what we've been working on, just a couple of announcements. The meetup and the Wood Expo show is not this weekend coming. It's the weekend after that. So it's really close. You just sort of snuck up on me last week. I was like, wow, it's right here. So if anyone's interested in meeting up with myself, Joey, or Jordan down in Brisbane on the 5th of May, the link is in the description now if you're watching this on YouTube. Otherwise, feel free to contact myself or one of the other guys about coming along. So that obviously we want to see as many of you as possible. And we will be doing a talk at the Malini Wood Expo around midday on Saturday. So if you are going to that, come say hi. It'd be great to see you all. Okay, Joey, what you been working on?
Okay, cutting up a whole lot of plywood for a couple of bookcases. It's been interesting I'm doing two at the same time, and so just keeping track of a whole lot of different pieces of plywood.
Yes, for the book.
Sorry?
Cases?
Yeah, I'm doing two at the same time. They're out of two different types of plywood for costs and various other reasons, and so it's kind of easy to keep track of which pile's which, but there's a whole lot of numbers floating around in my head because I always tend to remember my critical numbers, so I'm always making sure that I'm remembering the right numbers for the right job. Just pretty much finished my extension table, the second one, recycled carry. So we were talking a little bit about this before the podcast started, but essentially this client has given me 4 planks that were the old tabletop, like grandma's old tabletop. They're pretty bad condition, and talked to the client about it, and he said, go ahead, I want the character, quote unquote. So the problem was that there's only 4 boards, and if they were nice and dead straight, I would have had like an 890 odd wide table, which is pretty skinny anyway. But these were not nice straight boards, and the edges were chamfered off and pretty ugly. So by the time I straightened them out and joined them, I'm down to like 850 something. And okay, that is what it is. But unfortunately for me, I made a complete stuff up. And that I didn't think about that when I made the base. I made the base based off the theoretical width of the tabletop. So this morning I went to put the finished tabletop onto the table base for the first time, and the table base is wider than the tabletop.
So
interesting design choice.
How did that series of events actually happen? Like,
it's an unfortunate series of events.
it's a good TV show.
So luckily when I make those, so the base is the X frame, the classic kind of X table leg. So whenever I do an X leg base, they can actually be a little bit tricky to work out the geometry. So I always do a full scale drawing on a piece of plywood. Yeah. So I still have that drawing, and I went immediately back to my drawing, worked out one mistake I made, which is a bit hard to explain, but that mistake, coupled with the fact that I had a much narrower tabletop, meant that the little points of the X at the top were too wide by about 10 mil.
Right.
So I just had to lop them off about 2 mil back from the edge of the tabletop. So there's a little kind of flat spot, which actually doesn't look bad. It's just annoyed the crap out of me.
Well, adds a bit of strength too.
Yeah,
bang or knock it stronger. So
yeah, I agree. I mean, I was just it's like not what I wanted to deal with first thing this morning. I needed to get onto my other job, and I was like, now I'm stuck here for another hour just sorting this out. So
does that sort of bother you on a? I think you
Yes.
kind of mentioned it, like on just a.
Yes.
I can deal with this, but it annoys me because I got it wrong.
It pissed me off. I was like, what have I done that like, how can I make such a basic mistake? I'm like, that's like 101 table making. Like, the base is going to be smaller than the top. Like, it's such a stupid thing to do. And yeah.
I mean, 10 mil isn't that much. I was kind of expecting 150 mil.
Well, 10 mil, when I had designed it, that the base would sit inside the tabletop
I was going to say
by 20 mil on each side. So I made a 50 mil stuff up somewhere.
Okay. I mean,
yeah.
Look at the negatives, why don't you?
So when's that table due?
Well, tomorrow morning it may be finished. It depends if the finish feels good. I've been sanding all day in the workshop, so chances are the top is just covered in dust and it got stuck in there. So I kind of anticipated that. So I may do a final coat Friday, tomorrow, and then have the weekend to sit and look pretty. And then I'll try and get it to the client and get it out of my way because I've just got so much stuff at the moment. The workshop is shocker. So, yep, it's me.
Cool.
Yep.
Jordan?
I've been doing, I mean, you guys aren't going to believe it, but another couple of dining tables. I know. I am just the versatile woodworker. But yeah, no, this one has been one of those projects where I was kind of stressing a little bit because the client is, I think, about 4-hour drive away from where I am. And when they came into the workshop for a meeting and I showed them the timber that I would be using, it was a lot cleaner than the timber I had on the rack. So like I had a finished table here in the workshop in the display room and they want the same table, just a little bit wider. And I said, yeah, no worries. I've got the exact same lot of timber. I'll make it out of that. But then when I started machining it and milling it and getting it all glued together to make the panel, it was just looking really not clean at all. Like a lot of gum vein, a lot of knots and, just stuff all the way through it. And I was kind of like, I wasn't stressed thinking that they wouldn't like it. It's just, it's not what they expected. And if they turn around and say, oh, well, I don't like this, it's a long way for me to go to pick it up, change tops after I get more wood and just, one of those sorts of things. But I sprayed the finish on that. I think it was yesterday. And it's come up really nice. So
sweet. That
kind of worry didn't equate to anything because this thing's actually perfect. It's got a little bit more stuff in it than the other table, but when it was in its rough sawn state, it just looked nasty. On top of that, I have been doing like crazy amount of quotes. I've never had so many quotes out there waiting for, the go-aheads or no thank yous. But yeah, like I've probably got 6 or 7 open quotes that I've done this week alone, and I've still got a few I haven't even got around to, which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm about the same at the moment. It's just
like crazy. Usually it's 2 or 3 out at a time is pretty good going for me, and now it's just 7 or 8. It's crazy, which is good. And then
are any of them by any chance using your stance range, or are these all custom?
Other than the table that I've just finished putting the buttons on today, that's the only stance range. Everything else is custom. And some of those quotes are like kind of average jobs. So one of them is just 2 end grain butcher blocks, but they're curved to fit inside of an existing like custom stainless steel sink arrangement. So, kind of a boring commission, but it's a good one because it uses up all my scraps. And some of them are also for laser products, like custom engraved stuff for marketing of events and all that sort of stuff. So it's not like old big furniture builds, but still it's work, which is awesome.
Cool.
It's more than a lot of people have.
Yep.
And then, other than that, it's just been workshop maintenance and people popping in and giving me free stuff and not knowing where I can bid at like a 4.5 ton metal lathe, which I'm still deciding if I want or not. You know, if you can't move a 4.5 ton metal lathe by yourself, I mean, what are you doing with a workshop?
Where have you gone wrong in life?
Right.
Just out of curiosity, well, I mean, I would probably jump at the chance to have such a tool given to me. Do you, or have you ever needed, or have you got the want to turn any steel anything?
Yes. So I've got, so I do these guitar stands, and I have, since day one, I've always wanted to do the nut and the posts out of brass or stainless steel. But I've always made it out of wood dowel stock, and it looks fine, but it's not as polished as I want.
Right.
And I've got I sold my X-Carve CNC to a guy that is a amateur machinist, and I asked him to quote me to do like 10 at a time assemblies. And his quote was about $1,000 for 10 pieces.
Right.
And when I sell a guitar stand at like $250,
yeah,
I don't want to up the price by $100 per unit. So, you know, like I do have those, but the issue is the biggest things I want to turn on a metal lathe are maybe 150 mil long and 50 mil in diameter. And this thing is a 3.5 meter long lathe. And it can turn, you know, I have no idea how big it could really turn, but I'm thinking a 600 mil diameter faceplate would fit on that lathe.
It's big enough that it becomes scary to think what you can turn on it.
It's big enough to scare me thinking about what if, when I'm trying to get it into my workshop, a skate falls off and it takes my foot off, or when I'm positioning the jack, it slips. And like the actual prospect of moving something that's so heavy is scary to me.
Yeah, get someone else in.
Yeah, I'm going to need a lot of spotters and just kind of the exclusion zone if I go ahead and get it. I think I will.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Sell your table saw and put that in there.
Yeah. I can turn myself a table saw.
George's turning workshop.
Yeah, you know, it'll be a fun like resto and kind of just learning experience. But yeah, that's about me. What about you, Robin?
Cool. I have, well, first off, the bath got installed. Well, all I've been doing is working on the bathroom. First off, I got the bath installed, and the waterproofer came around and did all the necessaries. So now the bathroom is now basically a pool. Yep. I did a little bit of waterproofing myself around the top of the hob, installed the bath, and then he came along and did all the rest, just to make, because someone mentioned to me, you need to really try and get your waterproofing under the bath when it goes in. It's quite a, well, yeah. I mean, it's not mandatory, but it's good if you could do that.
It's
so
practice.
And it's really simple to work with, that waterproofing stuff. I didn't realize, you know, obviously it was just a small section, but it's a lot, you know, in a lot of the reno shows that you watch, they make it out like, you know, it's this art. But
well,
really,
there are a multitude of different products, and they each have their own little kind of inconsistencies and stuff. So
okay,
they are quite different. The way they all go on. So some of them are more difficult than others.
Is that like? Are you saying like some of them aren't necessarily water-based, or because I just thought a water-based acrylic waterproof was exactly the same across the range?
There's like, I mean, they go from, I've seen literally fiberglass sheets being laid down. I've seen a product that is like liquid rubber, and you just pour it in, and then it goes hard, and you've just literally got like a gumboot as the
wow.
Yeah, and they all have very different skill sets and like experience needed, and so that stuff you've been using presumably was like the paint on latex type.
Yeah.
Which like we have it here too in New Zealand, and you're allowed to do it yourself here. Any other product other than what you've been using or similar, you have to have someone licensed, and in fact you couldn't even buy it unless you were licensed. So
interesting. Okay, yeah. So I know in Australia, I know Queensland, you can't do your own. Well, I mean, no one's going to stop you, but you obviously can't, I guess, claim on anything if something goes wrong. You can't do your own waterproofing. But down in South Australia, New South Wales, and Victoria, you can.
Right.
So it's quite, I don't know why up here, and I think there's one other state as well that you can't do it. I don't know why you can't up here. I don't know what the difference is. But yeah, apparently you can't.
So I saw on Instagram that you started your tiling.
Yes.
And my initial reaction was, "What the hell are you doing? You crazy man! You've made yourself so much extra work putting them on the diagonal."
Yeah.
And this is like the quick bathroom reno that's dragging on, and now he's gone and made himself cut every tile. Like,
to be fair, it wasn't as much extra work as I thought it was going to be from what I've read. It was a little bit. I'm lucky in that I guess it was a small room, so there weren't as many cuts as if it was a big space. What did screw me over, though, is the fact that my tile cutter, my manual one, really struggles on the 45.
Yeah.
So every time I wanted to make a cut, I had to run downstairs, get the grinder out, do the cut, run it back up. Oh, no, not fitting. Run back downstairs, grinder out. So yeah, from that perspective, that's why it took me 2 days, actually 2.5 days to finish the floor.
Right.
And I got it. Like, I'm a fairly fit and healthy guy.
But your legs and stuff.
My hat goes out to tilers because I was in Officeworks the other day, and it was just after I'd done the tiling, and I dropped something. I bent down to get it, and I jumped up. And I was grabbing the back because my leg had just cramped up. I don't know how these guys do it. And I'll run 10Ks on an average Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't know how these guys do it. So yeah. Anyway, tiling, all the floors are done, and I was about to start the walls yesterday. It was Anzac Day here yesterday, so I was going to start the walls, but I ended up with the wrong tiles. So, long story. And so I had to give that a miss and just take a break. And then I got a phone call today that my windows are arriving tomorrow. So I'm going to put the windows in first, then I'll start the tiling. So hopefully I'll have the windows in this weekend and then be on to the walls. And then I think that's pretty much it then. Once the wall tiles are done, then I can finally get back into the shower. Like, I haven't tiled the toilet. I haven't put the doors in, none of that, but it's just now a race to the finish line just to get a shower indoors. That's the only priority. So yeah, that's pretty much me.
Cool.
All right. So today, what we're going to talk about is a topic that we touched on in the last 10 minutes of last show. And everyone just sort of went crazy in the chat about it. So we thought we'd touch on it again and turn it into a whole episode. One of the listeners, who goes by the name of Dubs, wrote in an email, and I'm going to read the full email this time just because I didn't do it last time, and I think I didn't do it justice. So we've got some time. So his entire email said, I subscribe to a few different woodworking channels and have done so for a long time. I'll call the channels for this purpose Channel 1 and Channel 2. I'll list you what the channels are at the bottom of the email. Both are channels I've followed for a long time, and in both cases have people that love what they do. Have people that love what they do. Share their creations and content with the rest of us and make people want to create things of their own. Fast forward to having enough subscribers, and Channel 1 has become intrusive with sponsorship and cutaway advertisements. Channel 2 has also become what I like to call the Michael Bay of woodworking videos due to the blatant advertising of the particular model saw with a close-up shot in slow motion of said saw. This means there is an ad before the video loads, an ad after the creator explains what he or she is creating, a cutaway ad for said sponsor during the video, and then an end of video reminder of the sponsor. Channel 2 has ads throughout the content. In some cases, the video and the content exist only because of the sponsor. Whilst I'll still support the channels by staying subscribed and view the content, I can't help but question their motives for doing what they do anymore. And despite the high video quality, the quality of the video still takes a dive for me due to the ads. So my questions for the show are, where do you think the line is between making content the priority over advertisements? And does editing video take such a toll on you that you begin to lose motivation for creating videos in the first place? So that second part of the question, does video editing take such a toll on you? I'm going to assume that that's meant in a the editing's taking so much time. The only way I can really sustain this is by getting sponsors on board, because that's going to pay the bills. So I'm going to assume that it's connected to the first question.
Yeah.
So that's the question. As I say, a lot of you guys had a lot of interesting opinions on this when we closed up the show last week. So where I wanted to start with this, because we can go in a lot of different directions with this. Where I wanted to start with this is, Joey, you've not done sponsorships before. I think you've said that a few times.
Yeah, I want to clarify perhaps, because it's funny when you have a whole week to think on a subject.
We're starting off with some breaking news.
Well, no, it's just it really gives you a chance to go through all the little details of the subject, and like I just mentioned, it becomes a huge subject that is not black and white. It's mainly gray, and so there's a lot of exceptions to every rule. Every time I came up with a scenario, I'd be running through all these kind of what would I do if this happened, and then I'd go, oh, but this, and oh, about that. And so I think I think last time I was like, I don't want to do sponsors or something like that. Now that's not entirely true, but what I don't want to do is I don't like ads and videos that have got nothing to do with at least the subject matter. And that's what I'm opposed to most of all. I think most of us would agree that I think we're all monetized from like the Google AdSense part. Yeah. So we can't really do anything about which ad is displayed.
I think for the purpose of this talk, that the YouTube ads, that's something fairly separate. We're talking about sponsored videos, and that's why I was interested to find out if you had ever done a sponsored video, because I wanted to get your opinion on what or how the process went. Because I think a lot of people listening to the show might not necessarily be aware of what happens from a sponsorship perspective. George, you've done a few sponsors, haven't you?
I have. So I've only had one long-term sponsor, which was I Would Like. That was a few years ago, and that arrangement was more of a handshake arrangement than a monetary one. So essentially what happened was they sponsored me with a free machine in exchange for, I think it was like 7 videos or something, outlining how to use the machine correctly, how to set it up and all that sort of stuff. And then it was, the only other thing was that we got a shout out at the beginning of the show for, I think it was 12 or 24 months. And, you know, for me at that time, it was a $7,000 joint to thickness of combo machine. I mean, who wouldn't do that? And it wasn't, like, to me, it wasn't intrusive at all. But I know with a lot of the bigger guys who get the sponsors, which are, what's the word? You know, like, oh, and today we're sponsored by this person and they've asked us to make this. Yeah. Like those sponsorship arrangements are a lot different because they've got deadlines. They've got to send the video off to that particular company for the approval. Once the video's gone live and it hits X thousand views, then their money might clear. Yeah, like they don't get paid up front for a video. They get paid after the video is published and after they've met their end of the bargain. So from that perspective as well, I think you can kind of forgive the guys that do overdo it because
a lot of pressure.
There's a lot of pressure coming from their sponsors and they want to get paid for this. And like YouTube ad revenue is not very much. I mean, some people it's enough to get by, but like for me, my monthly expense is $4,000, and there is no way in hell I could make $4,000 through YouTube revenue. Like people do, but there's way bigger than my channel.
I think it's worth pointing out that until fairly recently, it was a lot more doable, and I think in the last 6 months, a lot of people have just noticed a massive dive in how YouTube's algorithms are working, and I think that's why we've also seen an increase in ads, because the actual AdSense revenue has really dropped off.
It has, yeah. Like it used to be $17 something like CPM, which is I think cents per mil or something, right?
Yes.
Whatever it works.
Cents per thousand, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So like for every 1,000 views of that ad, you would get $17, but it dropped way down to next to nothing when that whole saga went through, and now it's slowly coming back up, but not by much.
It wasn't $17. It was probably 17 cents. If we got $17 per 1,000 views, we'd all be in mansions.
Whatever. Yeah, cents.
It's interesting you talk about that with the AdSense, because I was doing a bit of research on this. The number of six-figure AdSense earners on the site is increasing by 50%. This stat was in 2017, 50% year on year. The six-figure AdSense earners are growing.
Oh, okay.
So, wow. Yeah, money is still there.
It's doable, but it's just like the hardest job in the world to get to that point.
Yeah.
It's
so
exponential.
Yeah. My experience with the one sponsorship that I've done, proper sponsorship, was a phone call late at night with a company, and it was an American guy out of Minnesota, and he called me up and we had this long conversation, super cool. But the whole time in the conversation, he was pushing the question of, am I going to be able to sell this product? Now at the time, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to, but going with what you said, Jord, about the pressure was there before I'd even agreed to anything. It's constantly, it's on the go. I then got the product sent out to me, and I put it, into the videos, and none of them sold. I then got an email back from the company, a super friendly email, and there's nothing wrong with this company. They were fantastic to work with. Sort of saying like, what happened? And it was terrible. It was awful. From that sponsorship, the comments, 50% of the comments were people saying, corporate shill, sell out, etc. The company was saying, where's the revenue? I made nothing. I got some product, but I made nothing on it. So all in all, and the reason why I just want to start the show off with this is because I just want to put into people's mind that when a creator takes on a sponsorship, it's not like a truck rolls up, the back drops open, and money just falls out. Like there's a lot that goes with it. So just have that in mind when we talk about this.
Yeah.
So you go. Okay, I'll go.
Whoever wants to go.
Okay, I did one sponsorship. Really, I think it was the only time I actually had someone decide that they would do something. I needed a bunch of new planes for a job, and I contacted H&T Gordon because I was going to buy some anyway. And I said, "Hey, look, you've got a YouTube channel. I've got a YouTube channel. I need to buy some planes. If you want to help me out, you throw one in for free or whatever, and I'll give you a shout out." He goes, "Yeah, sweet." So that's essentially what happened. I think he gave me 2 free planes, and I bought 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, yes, technically it is a sponsored ad, but it's not like I got paid for it. And I still actually essentially paid my way to get those tools. And I was going to buy them anyway. I probably just wouldn't have bought 8.
That many, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's on my video, it's down as a paid promotion, which, because at the time, I'm not sure, Robin, you may know more specifics. YouTube have got there's a set of kind of rules about if you're getting kind of product to advertise, that still counts as a paid promotion. And if you don't mark it as a paid promotion, something like that, they can take some of your revenue more than they usually would.
Well, it's not so much that they can take your revenue away. It's just that you are then technically or legally not obeying the law. So there, I think there's a 2-part problem to this. One is that YouTube's trying to enforce these ever-changing rules, because this landscape is changing all the time, and that the legal system is trying to play catch-up all the time because they're trying to make these new rules. So these two parties are constantly moving, and that's why, like yourself, you're saying, I don't know, like, what is the ruling? How does this work? Because a lot of the time people don't know. There was a statistic that I read earlier today. This is in 2018. 90% of sponsored adverts are not sort of notified, or I don't know what the term is.
Oh, really?
It disclosed, are not disclosed properly in America. 90%.
Wow.
Jeez.
I mean,
People don't know.
I've done like a few videos where I've been given the item for free and I've given it like the overview or whatever. And I've not really declared them as paid. It's not a paid endorsement because it's just, well, they've given this to me and I thought I'd give them a shout out. But then I've also done it where like I got a couple of 3D printers where I did declare it because from that video I also got affiliate sale commission. So if someone clicked on my link, I would make a couple of bucks. And so if that was the case, I'd declare it. But if it was just me being nice to this, like when Bosch sent me some drills and a jigsaw and all of that, I just decided to do a video for them. It wasn't that they asked for it. It's just, well, these guys sent me all this free stuff. Good on them. Check it out. And it's really good quality. So why not? Like,
so there must be that whole area is essentially, I would imagine, very grey in terms of YouTube rules about endorsements and things like that. Because if you're just doing it off your own back and you're a good guy and you're just helping someone out and you're stoked to get something for free, and then YouTube come along essentially and they could be saying, hey, you owe us some money for your 2,000 views or whatever it is, so we're going to dock you.
Yeah. And as Dan's just pointed out in the comments, he's just said, how do you cope with the different rules for different countries? Different countries have different guidelines. So that makes it even more complicated because technically in Australia, if I'm putting out my video in America, I need to follow America's laws. But if I put my video out in the UK or in England, I need to follow England. So then it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's madness.
This is not something I've ever even thought about.
I have, but it's just, you can't. It's just so stupid because it's all going into this internet. Like, the rules don't matter. It's country-wise. So,
but on the same breath, like with this company that I'm running, it took me a long time to register a company because I just thought, well, it doesn't matter. I don't know the rules, and I was earning all this tax-free money, just money but because business is so old and understood, someone could say that's not how it's done. It's got to be like this. But YouTube, it's just the Wild West.
So, I agree. Yes, I'm not opposed to. I think last week perhaps I said I am opposed to all ads. Maybe something in that vein. Well, I have changed my opinion. Like I said, people are allowed to change, so don't hang me. That's
it. Unsubscribe. Yeah,
that's it. Everyone's gone. I like the idea of a sponsor who, like, for example, the one that springs to mind first is the Wood Whisperer with Powermatic.
Yeah.
He puts a sign up in the back and it says, thanks to Powermatic for the video, and then he just makes a video.
That was similar to your I would like, George.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Exact same, yeah.
That's what a sponsor should be for our type of content, I believe. Because why we aren't in the business of telling people what shaving cream to put on their face. So like, we are woodworkers or makers, so we've got it just has no logic.
It has to be relevant to the craft or the subject of that video, and it can't be something like, say that you're running a woodworking channel and then you're saying, well, it's relevant to the video because this video is about painting fairy dust, but it's like, it's not relevant to the usual content that you're creating. So like the weirdest approach I've had was Special K or something, like a cereal.
Right.
It's like, it's got nothing to do with what I do. So no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, and the chat's pulling out a couple. There's HelloFresh, which is the food, Casper mattresses, Dollar Shave, as you said, Joey. So there's a.
I didn't say anything about Dollar Shave Club.
Oh, I thought that's why you were pulling it out, because someone was mentioning
something about shaving cream.
You see, the adverts are working.
I just remembered. I will, full disclosure, I talked about it before. My Felder saw, my hammer panel saw. They gave me a discount because I said I had a YouTube channel, and actually it was after what I was looking for was that long-term sponsor that I could have the saw and then say a little, these videos are brought to you by Felder, and that would be it. That's what I was looking for. Ended up getting a discount, and all they want was the saw and the videos. And that's what you see just about in every video anyway. So technically, I don't know. Technically, do I need to say it's a paid promotion? I don't know. I paid for 98% of my saw. So
I don't think you need to say that's a paid. I think that's just a video.
Yeah.
So someone in the chat earlier, I think it was Dan, was mentioning the fact that he is on YouTube Red, which is basically a way of circumventing the AdSense adverts. I read a really interesting statistic the other day about Facebook and their ad structure, and how when Facebook was first created, and YouTube would follow the same thing. When Facebook was first created, the internet was a very different place. Ads weren't as rampant as they are today. When Facebook was created, if you had gone to people and said, right, you can have access to the service, but you've got to pay a little money, people said, no, not a chance. I'm not going to pay out of my pocket for this. That's ridiculous. So companies like Facebook, they go to advertisers and say, here's some free space. What can you do? There was a recent study done that if you were to pay for Facebook today, it would be something ridiculous like $6 a month. Now, can you imagine paying $6 a month for Facebook and to just get 0 ads?
But they're talking about it, right?
And that's the thing, because there's now so many people on board that it's now so cheap to go. But unfortunately, because people don't want to and didn't want to spend the money in the first place, that's what's got us into this mess, so to speak.
Speaking of YouTube Red, I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, but I actually get paid from YouTube Red views.
Yeah, you get a
So you do. It's a very minor amount, but that is also because there is a very minor amount of people on YouTube Red comparatively, and that money just comes out of the person's subscription money. So while you pay to be on YouTube Red, that money goes to the creators, at least a very small portion of it does. We still actually do get some revenue from YouTube Red views, which is nice from the creator's point of view.
Technically, you actually get a higher percentage of YouTube Red money than you do from AdSense.
Right.
So the YouTube Red idea is fantastic. Everybody wins.
If everyone jumped on board, it'd be a huge win for everyone. But it's that same thing as Facebook. You're not going to pay for, however many million people use Facebook, 1% might pay to use that service. That's the thing. But what about I think like another part of that question, because we're obviously approaching this from a creative standpoint with the technical jargon, but what about from someone that's watching a video and you see, like he said in the email, you see the YouTube ad and then you click skip and you go into the video and then they give you an ad about their sponsor and then they stop halfway through. Like, how many is too many? Because I personally, I don't mind YouTube ads as long as I can skip them. I don't like the 30-second long ones. That annoys the hell out of me and I generally click away. But the skippable ads, they're fine. But once you hit the video, I think for me, one ad in the video is fine. And it has to be quick. It can't be like 30 seconds. It's just saying, and like, what's his name? Steve Ramsey and Microjig. And it's like 10 seconds, if that. He goes,
and he's made it comedic as well.
Like, that is fine. But when it is a 30-second thing about, Matt Cremona did a thing with clothing, workwear.
Yes, I remember that.
That went on forever and it was just stupid. It didn't make any sense. Like, you can wear anything to cut a log with a sawmill. You probably shouldn't wear a bikini because it's dangerous, but you could if you wanted to. Like, you don't. Anyway, I think one ad is good as long as it's short, but anything else, to me, it starts to get a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Yes, especially, I'll just say this. I have to watch some awful videos with my little 2-3-year-old. And some of those kids' channels will put an ad every minute and a half on a half an hour long video.
Yeah.
And because they assume that parents just plop the kid down and it's just ad.
Gaming the system. Yeah.
And oh my God. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But that's a whole different thing. But
there's like a welding channel that his videos are maybe, I'd say, 30 to 40 minutes long on average. And he only uses YouTube ads. He doesn't advertise like in his videos himself, but he stops the video, I think, every 3 minutes for a YouTube ad. So it goes away, it does a skippable ad, then comes back in. And the thing is, like, his content's really good and I want to know what he's saying, but I get so fed up with it stopping and changing to a YouTube ad and then coming back in every couple of minutes that I just can't watch those videos.
My rule of thumb at the moment is an ad for every 10 minutes of content.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that seems to be working. I would never go above anything more than that. Even that I kind of cringe a bit about, but that kind of seems to be a bit of a reward for the amount of time spent making every 10 minutes of footage. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. 10 minutes interval is fine.
Which is interesting because that's roughly what you expect when you're watching TV.
Anything, pretty much.
That's how they break up their ad breaks. Yeah, that's an interesting point. So there was a study done, a recent study by someone at Princeton University. They looked at 500,000 YouTube videos, 0.67%, so 3,400 videos contained affiliate links. Now, affiliate links are similar to sponsorships. It's basically a link that if you click on, then the creator gets some money. And they generally push to that link, which is where the sponsorship came in. But I was really interested in that because it feels like in our world, every second video, someone's got a sponsorship in it. It seems like it's just everywhere. But this study, which was obviously fairly broad, it wasn't a particular category. Not even 1% of the videos were sponsored. I mean, Jordan, when you're on YouTube, or do you feel like it's just all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of, I've changed my viewing habits from watching watching woodworking videos on YouTube because every single one of them, let's say the majority of them would have some sort of ad or endorsement, like, whether it be a tool like Ryobi or something different like a clothing brand. It just kind of started to get a little bit over the top, in my opinion, with everything having some sort of ad pushed on you. I still do watch plenty of woodworking videos, but it's just changed that habit of sitting down in the morning with my cup of coffee and putting YouTube on. Like, that's kind of stopped because it's just not what I was looking at anymore. But yeah, I think I would have thought it would be a lot higher than 1%.
Yeah.
Like, I would have thought maybe 50%, but not the case.
I mean, I don't watch a lot of YouTube. I certainly don't branch out that much. I stick within like 2 or 3 kind of categories.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So I was talking with my assistant, Nick, in the workshop about this. Does any other video types or communities do what's happening at the moment, where you have the ad in the middle of the video, where they have the new little time bar comes up and it tells you how long the ad's going to run for, and they do the straight up advertorial in the middle of the woodworking video, like for the mattresses or whatever it might be. Does that happen in other types of YouTube communities other than woodworking?
I haven't seen that. So I've seen
me either.
I've seen lots of ads in so I watch a lot of technology and gaming videos, and there it's always it's integrated. It's the guys talking about a new phone. Just to let you guys know, this video is sponsored by so and so, blah blah blah, and it's so unintrusive. It doesn't break the flow. Now, I'm not saying that in our genre they're doing it wrong. Maybe that's just the stipulation of the brand. But it's just, like a simple example is, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Casey Neistat, for example. Whenever he does now obviously he's big enough that I'm pretty sure he calls the shots when it comes to a sponsored video.
Never heard of him before.
But he does it so well. Like, I feel so much more invested in what he's talking about because of the way he does that ad, because there's not this break, right? We've all got to pause, watch the video and move on. So
yeah, I think
sorry. Well, I was going to say, a lot of people in the chat here are talking about ad blockers a little bit, and I kind of came to the conclusion suddenly the other day that the ad blocker doesn't work for the built-in ad. No. It's a way that maybe companies these days are stipulating that you have to have kind of a breakaway type ad that is still going to be viewed, even if you need to fast forward it. You're going to see the logo up in the corner.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's got to have a lot of that would be a lot of the reason why people are doing breakaways, because of ad block. But what was I had something on my mind about the same subject, and I lost.
While you're thinking about
it was about the ad block. I was just saying I used to have an ad block, but then I realized that I'm doing away from people's contribution when I have that ad block on. And I'm someone that has monetized my videos, so I want the revenue. So I removed it because I thought, well, that's cheating. I'm doing one rule for them, but one for myself.
Yeah. Technically on YouTube now, I don't know if this is the case at the moment, because as I say, it's always changing. Technically, at some stage, you weren't supposed to watermark your video with a brand. Like, that was against their guidelines.
Yes.
Now, obviously, we were talking about the Wood Whisperer earlier with Powermatic all over it. So it's there. Now, I don't know what that watermark is, but I think to what you're saying, Joey, I think that's similar. That's why they didn't. You couldn't just stick a brand in a video like that, because then it was. If someone didn't want to watch the videos or the adverts, they couldn't get away from it. That could be it. That could be it. I'm just going through some of the other stats that are research here. Interesting. How-to videos, the search how-to is growing by 70% each year.
So imagine.
I think that's probably why our neck of the woods is so targeted by ads, because it's such a popular. Yeah. I mean, maybe not necessarily our channels, but if you get I like to make stuff or modern builds where it's just going through the roof, and you're a brand, like, that's just a gold mine waiting to be tapped.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess probably the advertisers don't care, or maybe they should. I don't know. While what I've noticed with some of those channels, not specifically those two, but while they may be growing and having a lot of views suddenly, the actual content, especially in the how-to game, is not necessarily very how-to. It's kind of hashed together and happens to be getting a crap load of views, hence all the ads. And that kind of perpetuates on for the same kind of content, I think. So that is not necessarily a good kind of ball to be rolled.
Yeah, you almost there's a sense of gaming the system a bit. I recently had an example. Well, it wasn't recent; it was actually a while ago, where I made a video that did fairly well, and another channel came out with a video almost exactly the same within a couple of weeks.
Right.
And this was a channel that was quite heavily sponsored, and obviously this is all speculation, but I got this impression that it was there's
no dare.
There's a trend that I can follow. We'll get the ads onto that, and we go. I mean, I don't know.
Sometimes think that as well.
How many times has it happened that you've had a plan to release a video and then you go onto your feed the day before you're going to release it, and the exact same thing said? Like, it's happened at least 4 or 5 times to me. Like,
and that's why I do want to say it could be coincidence. I don't want to be that grumpy guy who's saying no one can copy me, because I think that's even worse. But it was just this very, very interesting coincidence.
I have a question for you guys, unless you want to carry on a little bit more there.
I'm ready for a question.
Something I've been pondering for quite a long time, and I think I've made my mind up on this myself, but I'm interested especially about Robin's answer. Patreon. What's your thoughts there? I have a fairly strong view at the moment.
So Dirk was actually asking about it earlier. I think Patreon is great, and it's so grassroots, which is amazing. That's what I love about it. It's totally transparent, and half the time people are supporting you, not necessarily your content. So everyone who I've heard of with Patreon is saying, my patrons don't care what I spend or what I do with it. They just want to give me money.
That's the exact reason why I've still got one, because I went to shut it down, and 70, 80 emails the same day I announced it saying, no, keep it open. We don't care about your videos. I'm supporting you and your dream. Keep it alive. And then the next one, the same message.
Really cool.
And that's the reason I've still got it. Not because I necessarily want the Patreon thing anymore. I feel like I wasn't putting out enough content. I felt like I wasn't living up to what I promised. So I was going to shut it down. And then all these guys, they came and said, no, don't shut it down. I want to keep supporting you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100% can vouch for that opinion of it's not about the content you're creating, it's about the person.
Yeah, so I would say if you are a medium to large YouTube channel, do it. Go for it. Clearly, people are engaged in your content, therefore they're going to want to support you. Where I think a lot of people go wrong, and I made this mistake as well, is Patreon. I heard about this Patreon. And I thought, oh, well, let me just go for it. And I'll just start a Patreon. And I was too small. I mean, technically, I think I'm still too small for a Patreon. I don't have a rabid enough audience for it to work. So you can either go the route of I'll just put it up and see what happens, but 99% of the time nothing's going to happen, and you got to be okay with that. Or wait until you are big enough that people are wanting more stuff, and then you go for it and make some money off it.
Yeah, and I think where is it? Stark Raving Lunatic has a very good point. But when I was starting to see a large gain in Patreon, I started pushing it more, and that is really a negative effect on it because people start getting sick of it. So I did I thought having the thing on the wall with everyone's names that is pledging is a really cool way of saying thanks. You're actually a part of the workshop now. But that kind of did backfire because, like Stark Raving Lunatic has said, it was actually annoying people in the videos, and it was driving the other sense of revenue. Like the people that are on it love it, but the people that are watching a video for something else hate it. And it's that balancing act. So like one mention in the video at the end or whatever, great, or even just the symbol, but I wouldn't go to the extreme where I was thanking people that were coming on board in a video. I'll do it all via Patreon. I'll go on to them and say thanks for coming on board with a PM or something. The balancing line is tough.
So because we're almost out of time, what I thought we could do is let's do a quick, short paragraph encapsulate your feelings on this. Like let's see where we stand. John, do you want to go first? And what's your stance on sponsored videos and where is, to answer Dubs' original email, where is the line between?
Okay, I am jealous of sponsored videos because I wish there was more going in our neck of the woods here. I think if I was to say I am for or against, I am, at the end of the day, I'm for them because it is enabling people to do what they like, but I am not a big fan of where it's heading with the breakaway and all of that because it's just annoying and it takes away from the viewing experience. So I like it, but I don't love it. That's me.
Very cool. At the end of the day, I think that sponsorship is fine as long as it's targeted and ideally a long-term partnership rather than video by video sponsorship. I think that, especially for a brand, is going to make way more sense to have long-term support for a channel. I think that's going to create better business for them rather than an obvious paid advertisement for one single slot where everyone knows that they're just paying for this one thing. They're not going to stay and stick behind their creator of choice. So for me, some kind of long-term partnership would be the way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd have to say provided that the sponsorship is relevant to your audience and you know that it's relevant to your audience. I mean, obviously you're allowed to make mistakes, but if you willingly put something out that is just completely irrelevant to your audience, as long as you're sticking with that and you are, I don't know, transparent enough that we as the audience know that you're doing this or you're doing it with the right intention, then it's absolutely fine. I will support sponsorships, and until the day my YouTube channel dies, because it's the way forward. But it's the people who take on the sponsorships too soon or too aggressively. And maybe to answer the original question of where is the line, I don't think there is necessarily a line, because you'll have these trends where at the moment we're talking about that breakaway advert, that's gone too far. And in the future, someone might try something else and that'll work. There is no such thing as a line. It's just what people are enjoying or what people aren't enjoying. So I don't think, Dubs, there is a line. It's
all great.
It's all great.
It's all great. I would like to see more like product placement kind of ads rather than cutaway ads. So like that would be fine by me if they show off a table saw or whatever they're using. That's fine. But the cutaway for me is just
I think mention the sponsor at the start, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's about it for the show. There's just one more thing that I wanted to mention. Seeing as it was Anzac Day this yesterday, I had a couple of people email me about Dirk, Sumo's projects. He made a very cool video about Anzac Day and what it represents and all that. And I think it was a very cool video. I know we aren't necessarily doing, we're not shouting out any videos this week. But I did just want to shout that video out because it was very cool. As I say, a few people mentioned it to me, so I'll have that in the description down below. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the show. John, Joey, anything else you guys want to add?
No, just see you next week at the Wood Show.
Oh yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so we'll be there next week. Saturday,
yeah.
Saturday morning, Saturday and Sunday. If you're in the area, come and say hello. Yep. It's going to be very cool to meet. So we've got a few people that are coming so far, and I'm excited to meet some new faces. But other than that, that's about the show for tonight, guys. Thanks everyone in the chat for all the comments and questions. It was, wow, we had a lot of
very active. Yeah.
a lot of people involved tonight, which is so cool, so cool. So I hope we can do the same thing next week. And yeah. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and yeah, we'll see you guys again the same time, same place next week.
Bye.
See ya.